Market update here on the 24th. So, nice gain during the market open. After hours, we had Microsoft beating earnings and a nice pop. I played that one. I'll go over the chart here in a second. And then we had Google, which sold off after hours. But they beat on, I think, most of the metrics. I think their cloud revenue was probably down. I think that was the reason it sold off. But yeah, mixed earnings kind of cancel each other out. After hours, I think we were down a little bit, and futures are down a little bit. So SPY though looks like it's probably going to go higher to me. We did have this gap fill down here this morning. That's why we sold off right here. So we just gapped up, came down here, filled the gap, and then came higher. So tomorrow, if we're red and we come back down here, I would just be buying the dip because this right here is either a wave 1 or a wave A. So I don't know. This could be wave 2 right here. And this could be ABC potentially like that. And then go higher like this. I would be looking for a minimum of right here around maybe like 427, but I haven't done the supply demand yet and just see where the supply demand zones are. So supply and demand, we of course got the 438 one here. We created a new demand zone right here this morning. Came back into it, came out of it. I bought calls down here. I don't really like buying calls that much, to be honest, because when the VIX is coming down and you're buying calls, you're losing premium when the VIX goes down. As your calls are if you get the move to go the right way, you're losing premium because the VIX is getting lower. So I'm not a huge fan of buying calls, but I bought calls right here and sold around like 422.50, 423 or something like that. So I missed $1 on it, but I was just waiting for Microsoft earnings because I had a position on those. So anyway, with all that being said, look for potentially 427 or 428. 428 would be a 5-wave move, or actually I think it's a 1.61 fib. So 1.61 fib is around 428. If this turns out to be a 5-wave move, we're looking at something that could go all the way to potentially like 430, I think. Let's just see. Yeah, we're looking at like 433 actually. So if this ends up being 5 waves, we can go all the way to 433, and that gap fill wouldn't surprise me. Maybe this one would surprise me, but I think that we should have started either the B wave or we're starting the overall next move to new highs. But I would lean towards this right here, this structure right here. I don't know how high it's going to go. It could go to 448, could go to 438. But I kind of am leaning towards this, or we go to new highs. So basically, buy the dip. If we come back down here, I'd be buying the dip all day, and look for at least 428 for an ABC move. So QQQ is pretty much the exact same thing. This is a very corrective move right here. And this actually ties into Microsoft earnings. I'll go over that here in a second of how I knew to go long. I talked about that in the video yesterday, but this right here is kind of similar to how Microsoft looked. It was like a gap up, or not a gap up, but it was a very corrective move. So we have a huge move here. It's clearly not a 5-wave move. And then we come down. So the top is not going to end with this. So we could come back down here into this demand zone one more time. That'd be a pretty big move though, actually. So with all that being said, we got impulse move, corrective move. I would look for a minimum again on QQQ at probably 363. We have a supply zone up here at, it's supposed to be like a 4-hour supply zone daily. I don't know where that came from actually. The supply zone that I'm seeing is probably right here, because on this move right here, it didn't really give us a very good one. So I would say the supply zone is probably 364 to 371, and that's exactly where we would go pretty much if this ends up being an ABC move. 364.50. If it pulls back and goes higher, maybe like high 360s. And then that could be wave 1 or that could be wave A. We'll see how it plays out, but I'm pretty sure we bottomed here. So you can see here too, this was 5 waves. So yeah, look for a nice corrective move higher over the next probably couple of weeks to a month. And then this has potential of happening later in the year, maybe in December. So basically we're looking at something like, and gap fills on QQQ are at, so we have a gap at 376, and then there's a gap here at 381. I would expect one of those to get filled. I would at least 376, I think. Probably get filled here in the next like month or so. So that's what I think. That would be a pretty big retracement. That would be about, it's a little bit past the 0.61 fib, but then you have this up here, 0.78 fib. Regardless, I just think it's going to be a nice bounce, so look for more upside on both SPY and QQQ. All right, so Microsoft. So Microsoft, I bought shares today at 328 during the market, and I was planning on doing that because this is a very good setup. And this is one of the things you should do before earnings, is kind of look at what the structure of the move is. So we have this move right here that I have labeled wave 3. And then we got a move down. And then we came up and we made a new high. And then we came back down. But this move right here was very corrective. You can see A, B, C. So do you think we're going to top out on a corrective move and then we get an impulse down? That was a clear ABC move. That was kind of gave away what the next move was going to be. And then we got an impulse move, and then we got another corrective move, and then we are going up into the close. So this was an easy long for me. I bought at 328 and I sold after hours at 345. So pretty easy move overall, but we'll see what it opens up tomorrow at. I would imagine that options are going to screw with the move maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's the reason I played shares, because I knew that it's likely this move is going to play out, but it might take a little bit more time to develop because of the options chain. So the options chain's only saying, or not the options chain, the chart is saying maybe like 345, and that's basically what we topped out at after hours. It's at 349, I think. And it's kind of annoying. I'm on Schwab, and they wouldn't let me. They don't let you do after hours trading till 5 minutes after the close. So when I eventually was able to sell, it was at 345. I just took the gains. So this can play out basically like this. And there's a gap fill at 349. So based on today's pop after hours, we should be hitting that gap fill at 349. But tomorrow it might open up at 338 and just fill this gap and then pull back. And then this might be a little bit more drawn out. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Maybe I'm wrong on that too. Maybe it'll go straight to 348. If it does that, it's only a wave 3, pull back, and potentially go higher than that. Overall, I'm still looking at this whole thing though as completing the C wave. So that means this was wave A, this is going to be wave B, and then we're going to get a wave C. Maybe it doesn't go all the way down to 282 now if we go up here higher. If he goes to 350 and fills this 349 gap, I would be looking for something around 300 probably. Maybe it holds this right here, the support area. There is a gap fill we never filled here at 308 as well. So just take note of this right here. When you see those kind of moves, and you can kind of break it down by corrective, impulsive, impulsive, corrective, kind of give you an idea where it's going. Instead of, I don't know, there's a lot of people that just like look at dark pool trades and they look at other stuff that's going to really make you guess a lot and maybe second guess yourself. In my opinion, it makes me second guess, like, oh, did they buy or did they sell this? We know the level, we don't know what they did. So that's my thoughts on Microsoft. Probably gonna see 349 gap fill. Google. So Google sold off after hours, and it had a bullish setup. It looked like it was ready to go. But this can also be a nested move, and it did end with an impulse move. So the difference between Microsoft and Google are what looks like an impulse move. I now think this is actually a B wave. So we got wave 3 right here, and then we got this move down, which looks impulsive to me. So that's actually more than likely going to be an A wave, B, and it looks like we're doing a C wave. I'm not sure if it's going to come all the way down here at 124. If it only stops here at 132, then that means this is probably wave 1 of 5. Without going into too much detail and trying to figure out what that is. This can be B if it comes down here to 124, or it can be wave 1. I could probably figure it out a lot better if I went down on smaller time frames, but if it comes down here to 124 or 132, you could probably buy the dip here and put a stop below the low, and be anticipating this being a second wave, and then get a big move higher. So if I remember right, there's a gap fill higher. Maybe, no, actually we're at the all-time highs. Maybe the gap fill was already filled at 140. Yeah, it was filled at 140. So I guess there's a potential that could be the end of the move too. That could be the 5th wave. So we'll see tomorrow on Google what happens with that. Is it going to hold 128 and go higher, or is this the top of the line, or is this a 4th wave that comes down here to 124, fills the gap, and then goes higher after that? I think it's a pretty good buy overall. So anyway, that is Google. And I was looking at the calendar here. We have Meta tomorrow, so let's go over that. Meta is a very tricky chart, but let's just see what's going on. It kind of has a similar setup to Google. We have this ABC move down here, which looks like it should be ready to go higher, but then on Google it turned out to be, well, after hours it turned out to be a move down, so it could be a nested move as well. This didn't quite get to the 1.61 fib. It got a little bit higher than like the minimum amount that I would expect for this C wave. There's a possibility that this is also a wave 4. A diagonal to end this is possible. So if they beat earnings, they could see 336. It's the 1.61 fib of this right here. Let's see here. Zoom in a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's a very corrective move in my opinion, but this can go a lot of different ways. If they miss earnings, I guess it's not really that good of a setup because This could be a diagonal or it could be a nested move. I could see this going both ways. I could see it moving down here like this, where this is wave 1 of 3, something like that. And then you have the gap fill down here at 265. That doesn't match what I think the market's going to do though. So I would lean towards the upside, but I wouldn't say it's a very good setup. Because this is potentially the top of the B wave, and you're kind of gambling here that this is a fourth wave diagonal on a C wave, so it's not very high probability. I probably wouldn't touch Meta tomorrow because I feel like it's more gambling compared to Microsoft. That chart was set up perfectly. So yeah, this can go either way. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. If it starts going down, then my target is 265. If we go higher, probably 336. And then Amazon is on Thursday, but I'll go ahead and go over it right now. So yeah, I have this marked here as A, B, and we are going higher here a little bit. Let's look at the structure of this. So this retraced, whoops. I don't know. This didn't look very like a very good setup to me at all, except for the fact that this was very choppy as well. So this is a corrective move, corrective move, corrective move. So I would lean towards the upside. Maybe this pulls back. Maybe this turns out to be something like this going into earnings. That would be a really good setup, because then you have this big retracement, and then you have a retracement after this big move. Be basically like a bull flag or a second wave, and I would be buying that dip if it came down here to 125. And I think that this really needs to finish off too. So we have this A wave right here. So this move probably is way more high probability than Meta, and I would like to play this a lot more than Meta if I'm going to pick one. So we have the gap fill at 135 as well. This looks like this is probably going to play out, and then we'll come down here to 115. So I would look for a C wave. It probably will maybe retrace a little bit going into earnings, and look for at least 135. So one that I saw on the earnings was Boeing, and I had interest in this a long time ago, and I still haven't bought into it. What's it at now? 182. So this part right here was very confusing, and I know why it was confusing now, because it was a B wave. So whenever it's confusing, it's probably going to be a B wave. So we got this choppy move here, and I didn't play it because I was like, I don't know what that is. It looks very corrective to me. I don't think that's a fifth wave. And then sure enough, we get a C wave down here. And this hit, let's see, it hit the 1.23 fib basically. So basically it's done selling off. 161 is as far as it can go. And the first wave ended at 174. It came all the way down here to 178. I think Boeing is a very good buy here. Very, very good buy. Huge sell-off. I might play this tomorrow, to be honest. If I get the right setup going into earnings on smaller time frames, I might play it, because I've had this target for a while here. WXY. No, this would be ABC. I've had this target here at 300. I don't know if it's going to get there anytime soon, obviously, but even if I'm wrong and it doesn't make a wave 5 up here, you're still going to get a retracement here. I mean, it just sold off from July 31st to about, actually earlier today, or Friday, it bottomed. So you're going to get a retracement here. It did go through this demand zone. It is below that demand zone, so that's something to take note of, though. But did fill this gap. Let's see if there's any good supply zones, and there is right here. So 189 to 195 on the daily. So, I mean, that's a pretty good move for earnings if it does come up here to 189 to 195, because it's at 182 right now. That would be about a 5% move. So, wouldn't be a bad play into earnings in my opinion. Let's look at the structure of this move right here, though. Although, yeah, I mean, this looks pretty corrective to me. So I think that this looks like it's probably finished. I think that it looks pretty good. And then you got an impulse move off the lows. Maybe it sells off tomorrow into earnings, and I want to play it even more. You can just put a stop below the low here at 178. And even if it goes lower, I mean, it's so far, it's gone down so far. Let's look at where it's at on the 15-minute chart, or on the hourly chart. So yeah, look at that. We sold off from the very top of this down to the bottom. I mean, Boeing probably looks better than any chart to play for earnings. I don't know what earnings are expected, but just from a technical analysis standpoint, I think it looks pretty good. So maybe 189 to 195 after earnings if they beat, and potentially 300 in the long term. What else we got here? I don't see any other ones that I'm really like high on that I want to look at. So let me know in the comments if you have anything else you want me to look at. I think I'm going to leave it at that for now. The dollar. Dollar with a nice move higher here. So again, this is very, very corrective. I would expect more downside. So look at this. You have this move here. I'm looking for at least 105. But here's the thing, though. This is corrective. This is not what you want to see. I wanted to see an impulse move down here to 93. We're getting a corrective move. So that means regardless of how far it falls, we're probably going to get another move higher. And I would actually probably target 110 to 113 at some point. So for right now, though, it looks really bullish because we have to come down here farther. If this is a B wave, regardless of how high it goes, we got to come down here farther. So that's why I'm bullish on the market as well. All right, that's pretty much it. Leave me a comment. Let me know if there's any other stocks you want me to look at before earnings. I didn't see anything really that major, but of course we got Apple and Nvidia later in the month. Actually, Nvidia is like end of November. Apple is in about a week or so. I didn't look at those today. I'll look at them tomorrow, but that's pretty much it from this video. Hopefully you learned something from me talking about Microsoft, why I decided to play it. And yeah, that's it. Have a good one. Talk to you tomorrow.